Good morning. Good to see everybody here today. We have a special treat for you as always. We have Dr. Diehl is here with us. I heard him share at a Texas Conference Pastors meeting about 10 years ago, and about 3 or 4 years ago I said, we got to have Dr. Diehl here come to Carolina Camp Meeting. So he's here, and we're so blessed to have him. As you know, if you've read in the pamphlet, he is the founder of the Lifestyle Medicine Institute and the founder of CHIP. So he's the one who started that, and we have a wealth of information about to come our way. And I want to share a few things with you. We have some good news for those of you who can't get enough of this, all right? Normally we have one session Monday through Friday for a health seminar. But for this year, we want to get as much as we possibly can, so we have 2 sessions each day, and they're different. They're not a repeat session, okay? So there's 10 total sessions, so that means you're locked in for the rest of the week, all right? Okay, so I do want to mention to you, if you're interested, I have a little training event that's coming our way. It's going to be the same training. It's going to be located at the Foster Church in Asheville and also the Spartanburg Church. In Asheville, it's going to be August 18 and 19, and then at the Spartanburg Church, it's going to be August 25 and 26. And it's going to be a training for health ministries, a train-the-trainer event, okay? So a little bit different than what we're doing here. This is a training for you to do ministries back in your church. So this will be training for creation health. It will be on Saturday from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m., and then reversing diabetes seminar will be from Sunday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. And there's a small charge that covers both days and meals and everything, your lunches. And if you're interested on how to register, again, this is coming in August, please see me. I can't pass this handout to everybody. I only have like 100 for the whole week. But if you're interested, see me. I'll be in the back there, and you'll see me in the front in the mornings at least. So this has really been working very well in our conference. There have been some recent reversing diabetes clinics that some churches are doing, and to bless the community, because that's what we're called to do. We're not called just to have good seminars for ourselves, but to use this information to share with the world, right? And so that's what these are going to be doing, equipping you to be able to bless your community so that they can be blessed by this wonderful message. Okay, so all of these sessions will be recorded, and they'll be placed on the website a little bit later. So give at least a day for them to be placed on the website, the Carolina Conference website, which is www.carolinasda.org. And then you go to camp meeting, and then you look for the seminar speaker, and then you'll be able to listen to these seminars, even download them, share them with your friends, so that you can maybe have them for yourself later on as well, maybe even have your church listen to it or announce that as well. Okay, so we're going to begin with a word of prayer, and then we're going to have Dr. Diehl come on up. Let's pray. Dear Father in heaven, we thank you for the opportunity that we have to camp out with you this week. And there are a lot of people that camp out, and they don't have such luxury. But we can camp out and have all the details taken care of so that we can have most of our attention focused directly to you. So we ask that your Holy Spirit would lead each one here today, that you would bless Dr. Diehl, that you pour your Spirit out upon him and through him, and bless each participant. Everybody has come with a different set of circumstances and needs and challenges and opportunities. But we pray that after everybody leaves each session, they will be encouraged from you being in your presence. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, I just want to make one quick announcement. The slides are a little bit distorted by color than the original author, but I think you'll still be able to make a headway of what is the intent there in each slide. Dr. Diehl?
on. Yes. Okay. I'm delighted to be with you here and to spend some wonderful times in one of the most beautiful lakes that I have seen. I can hardly wait to get out there and do some running and to see the clouds and the fog rise in the morning. It's absolutely gorgeous. So we are all very, very fortunate being in such a lovely facility here. Now, I have to tell you that for the last 3 years, I carried this name Brad in my mind. For 3 years, Brad. I had it in my time, in my date book there. Every year it was in 2018 you're going to be in Carolina. Because 3 years ago he asked me, and I had to sign in blood that I would not do anything else but to be here. So this man really knows how to be remembered. So I'm just delighted to be here. The 3 years is over. And we'll have 10, 12, 13 hours together because I have learned that it's very important not just to give people maybe one lecture. One lecture on health doesn't do anything. It just makes people upset. You know it does. You begin to argue. You have different opinions. And so to really try to reach out with the glorious message that we have, where God has entrusted us with a symphony of nutrients, with over 100,000 micronutrients in his food so that we might live and live the abundant life. And yet many people only begin to worry about health when it's gone. I had this one Bill Gates kind of a person in India tell me, a rich man obviously. He said, look, I have everything I want. But then the arteries got clogged to my heart. I bypassed surgery, and nobody told me I have to go to the natural food diet. That's what he called it. I call it God's design. Nobody told me, so it closed up again. After 3 years, it was closed again. And he said, please tell the people, the only wealth you really have in life, this is a wealthy man saying that, the only wealth you really have is your health. So I'm very, very delighted that Brad, as your health director here, gave that a priority here to be together and to learn together. Now, what I want to do, I want to mingle the spiritual with the health concepts, information, and application. Because unless you have the spiritual power behind you, you cannot change. Oh, you say, I put myself up on my bootstraps. I want to see my grandkids grow up. I'm going to do it. Yeah, you do it for 3-4 weeks and then... Right? You've got to have the power of a master designer who gave this to us behind you, so that you feel comfortable in surrendering those taste buds. And many people don't understand that these taste buds, they change within 3 to 4 weeks. You will not miss the things that you're willing to die for. That's true. You will not miss these things. Yes, you will be hankering after somebody but you know, after about 3, 4, 5 months, folks, it's all changing because your taste is determined to a large extent by the interpretation of the brain. And when you change the brain and the understanding up here, this changes. And you can praise the Lord and you don't feel angry anymore. I can't have this, I can't have this. No, you just give up heart disease, you give up diabetes, you give up high blood pressure, you give up 15 different medications, and you live the abundant life. That's what it's all about. So I'm not here to make you miserable and take all the good things away from you. I just want to give the very best. Let's make a trade. The best for the good. Even though the good sometimes may even be questionable sometimes. Right? So, this morning, what I want to do, I want to introduce myself to you. Is it okay? So I want to tell you my story. And I want to go back to the book of Jeremiah. Jeremiah 29. You know that story well. Jeremiah 29. What you have here is they're distressed. They're alienated. They're discouraged. They don't know where to turn because they are now in their 70-year captivity under King Nebuchadnezzar, the people of the promise. After warning, after warning, after warning, after generation, after generation, after generation, God finally comes out and says, it's enough. And Nebuchadnezzar comes as God's servant and takes the people of the promise into Babylon. But even there, God does not leave them. And so here it says, Jeremiah, he says, the truth is this. You will be in Babylon for a lifetime, 70 years. But then I will come and do for you all the good things I've promised and bring you home again. For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. There is the bright light. It's dark. They're in the tunnel of depression, sadness, discouragement. And the rainbow appears. I shall give you a future. For I know what I'm doing. This is a modern translation. I know what I'm doing, says the Lord. I have it all planned out for you. Plans to take care of you. Plans to give you a future you can hope for. God is assuring us that I have it all planned out for. Now, I'm sure many of you could tell your story today. But since I have the mic, it's also very interesting. We look at life in that we look always at the future. Hope, future. When we live, we look towards the future, and we live this life in such a way, looking forward, but we understand life looking back. Ever thought about that? By the time you turn about 45, 50, you begin to look back and you see, oh, this is how this all makes sense now. Oh, God was right there. I didn't understand it. You know, like the story of the footprints in the sand. God, where were you when I needed you? No footprints there. I carried you, my child. So I want to tell you my story. It's a story of how God has taken care of me and my family. And I hope that will inspire you and will also perhaps stimulate you to think about your own way of God and His leading and guidance in what He has done to bring you here where you are now. Because there's a purpose. There's a reason why you're here. He has taken care of you. I was born shortly after World War II, exactly 9 months after Germany capitulated. My parents were so overjoyed that I showed up 9 months later. Because my parents and their parents were in the resistance movement in a situation where it was impossible to begin to understand the craziness of the times. We had nothing. 6 children, I was the oldest. We were grateful for American care parcels, which sustained us. I'm still coming back to you today to thank you for what you have done many, many years ago. You helped us to get us back on our feet. We were born into a Lutheran church, which was the state church in Germany. My parents were good people. They were religious people. They were honest people. They were hardworking people. They took good care of us. But then we would go and see the pastor, and he would have these special American care parcels there. And there were always some special sweaters and some special shirts for the Diehl children that came from America. It was tough. When I was 14, I was attending the confirming class in the Lutheran church. It was a very special pastor who had taken care of us as children with the clothes and the cares and so on. He was a friend of the family. Every Thursday we would have our catechism class, a group of us. We learned about the Bible, and we learned to become eligible for the communion service in the Lutheran church. But then something happened, and that is every Wednesday night, a man would come to our house. He was the local baker in our town in Germany, and he would deliver a special bread called Graham bread. You know graham crackers? Yeah, it was sort of one of the healthier flours that was then used to bake bread, and that bread was outstandingly good. Every Wednesday he would come, and he would get into some discussions with my father, and sometimes the discussions would be so long that the next customer that he was supposed to take care of became very upset and said, "Where were you?" And so what the baker did, he said, "Okay, we put the Diehl's house at the very end of my trip so that there's no one going to be upset." So he would come always about 8:30, and he would be there, and he was a man that was very engaging in all kinds of topics. And I have to tell you, in those days, in a German family, when it was 9 o'clock in our family at least, my father didn't have to say a word. I mean, these were the days. No discussion. Upstairs. Time to go to bed. 8:30, the baker came, and we began to talk. They talked about all kinds of things. One time, and you know, when you are 14 years of age, you are very, very open to all kinds of new ideas. You sit there with big eyes and your ears are wide open. And then he talked about Daniel. Daniel. I know all about Daniel. We studied that in Sunday school. I know all about Daniel. Lion's Den? Oh, yeah, no problem. This man talked about Daniel as a prophet. A prophet? A prophet? He talked about Daniel 2 and Daniel 7. He talked about the emergence of empires, predicting what would happen. He talked about Babylon. He talked about Medo-Persia. He talked about Greece. He talked about Rome. And he talked about some 10 toes. I mean, who was this man? And just when it was getting really interesting, so I would pretend to leave, and I would stand behind the door. And I was hoping that nobody would open the door. I would be in trouble then. And they talked about Daniel 2. They talked about these prophecies. So I go upstairs later on. I look up the book of Daniel, 2nd chapter. It doesn't say anything about Greece. It doesn't say anything about Persia. And then I go to chapter 5 and 7. It actually talks about Greece. Now this is several hundred years before the empire of Greece actually emerged. This was indeed a prophetic book. This was written 500 some years before Christ came, and he talked about these events that would happen later on. It was amazing. And then I noticed that Jesus was talking about recommending the book of Daniel when he was on earth as a prophetic book. And then I could hardly wait to have the man come back next Wednesday. He comes back the next Wednesday, 8:30. They talk. This time, he talks about Jesus. He talks about Jesus as being the creator of the universe. The creator? No! I've never heard this in the Lutheran Church. I mean, he created the world? No, God the Father did. He is the source. He is the sustainer. God the Father. Jesus? And then it says, let us make. Oh, more than one. Oh, he was the executive? Oh. Now that's very profound, because if Jesus is involved in a very prominent fashion as a creator, then it's beyond my understanding and comprehension that the Creator laid down his life for me. I mean, he was not just sort of part of something that was up there that came along and said, yeah, I sacrificed myself. No, he was the Creator. He made me. He made the people who crucified him. I said, unbelievable. I mean, there's no other religion in the world where the God who makes lays down his life for his creatures. Profound wonderment in my life. And then, and I go behind the door and develop these elephantine ears. I try to get everything that this man talks about. And I develop a new understanding of Jesus somehow, a larger picture of God, a larger picture of the Godhead. The next morning I said to my dad, Dad, this man is strange. I never heard these kind of things before. Did you look up this Daniel 2 and 5 and 7 and 8? Did you look at that? Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah. And then he talks about Jesus. He said, I looked it up in Corinthians. It says, everything was made by Jesus. I said, we've never heard that in the church, have we? I said, what is this man? What belief does he have? He said, I don't know. I'm waiting for the next Wednesday. Wednesday comes, 8:30. The baker is there. Graham bread. And this time, he talks about the Sabbath. The Sabbath. Oh, he must be a Jew. I figured him out. He talked about the Sabbath. And then he talks about that the Ten Commandments talk about remember. Remember? Could it be forgotten? Remember. And then I hear my father say, well, the seventh day, yeah. Keep the seventh day. We do. Every Sunday. We're good keepers of the law. Because Sunday, well, there's the seventh day of the week, that's the Sabbath. And then the man said, well, do you have a German calendar here? So he brought a German calendar. And it's very interesting. In Germany, the seventh day is always in red. All the other days are in black. It's very clear. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is a Sunday. And if I say, you see? I understand your point. We're doing the right thing. And he says, well, now, I need to tell you, in German, Wednesday is called Mittwoch. That means middle of the week. middle of the week. So he said, well, let's take a look at the calendar. Mittwoch. So if Mittwoch, Wednesday, the 7th, is the middle of the week, then the 7th day is what? So he said, well, if Sunday is the 7th day, right? Right? Then you have Monday the 1st, Tuesday is the 2nd, Wednesday is the 3rd. It's not in the middle. It has to be the 4th to be in the middle, right? 3 before and 3 after. Wednesday has to be the 4th day, but this is Monday the 1st, Tuesday the 2nd, Wednesday is Well, let's just say that Sabbath is the 7th day. Then you have Sunday is the 1st, Monday is the 2nd, Tuesday is the 3rd, and Wednesday is right in the middle. It was like a puzzle. Yeah. And then he said, you know, some changes took place. And many people may not be aware of this, and we do all these things with the best of intentionality, the best of what we know. But there's some deep truth here. And then he said, and you know, the Bible says someday this world will come to an end and people will worship again on the 7th day Sabbath. Maybe you should consider doing it even right now. Then I had to go to bed. But I was fascinated. The next day, I have my Bible class with the Lutheran pastor. And then the pastor, I think, made a fatal mistake. He said, does anybody have a question? No, he was a friend of the family, so, you know, you always want to treat people right. Folks, it's not about who is right and who is wrong. We're not interested in winning arguments, but we're just honest, earnest, truth seekers, aren't we? Folks, when you win an argument and you lose the person, what have you gained? We always want to be the nicest and the most gentle people, where people feel that we love and care about them. That's what the health message is all about. If anybody comes to you and says, that's what you need to do, back off. If they say, well, sister, I will pray for you that you may see what I see, because it could really make a big effect on your health. Open your heart. That person is safe. They're not out to win an argument, to be right. You're right and you can be very wrong. You want to be loving and gentle. And so I was kind of gentle with this pastor, and I said, you know, I just read the Ten Commandments that talks about remember the Sabbath day. And is the Sabbath the 7th day? He said, yes, it is. Oh. And why do we celebrate Sunday? Oh, because it's the New Testament. This has all changed. We celebrate Jesus' resurrection. And I said, did Jesus sort of let us know that that might be a good idea to do? I said, are there some Bible verses? And he said, well, I can't really tell you that right now, but I'll give you some answers next week. He knew he was in trouble. I knew he was in trouble. And then the baker brought a young Adventist minister to the home. And I fell in love with this young minister. And I started my Bible studies with him for the next 52 weeks, every week. Folks, maybe sometimes today, when we expose people to these wonderful truths, we oftentimes don't take the staircase anymore, 52 steps, one every week, like I did. Because nowadays it seems it's so much more convenient to just take the elevator, up there. You know all about Jesus? That's all you need? Get baptized, you'll learn later on. And then you haven't quite gotten the depth. You haven't quite gotten to the deeper issues. And somehow you may be becoming shortchanged in your understanding of God. Are you with me there? And then we find these people coming into the understanding of who God is, sort of, after a special campaign. And then 3-4 months later, they're gone. And you say, what happened? Oh, the lady brought, this was her first potluck. She was just baptized, and she brought a wonderful pork dish. And one of the ladies said, we don't eat this, folks, here. We don't eat this meat here. Don't you know that? And she's gone. Oh. Do you understand? It hurts, doesn't it? Yeah. Let us not be too hasty to have people on our books. Let them be in the books of heaven. And let us as church people surround these people with great love, visit them, and help them to become disciples of Jesus. Because once they've come into the church and then they leave because of some of these unfortunate circumstances, it's very, very difficult to have them come back, isn't it? Oh yeah, I tried that once. So I became baptized at the age of 15. It was a glorious day. My parents were baptized. And when we came into the Adventist church, see, this was the first door that God opened up to me. I'll talk to you about 9 doors. Let me see if it works. Can we move this forward? Yeah. I'll talk to you about 9 doors. Next one, please. Yeah. So the first door was I had an enlargement of the understanding of God. I left the Lutheran church, and God opened the doors to come to the Adventist church. Now, when you come to the Adventist church, something happens there, especially in those days then. You have to learn something about geography when you come to the Adventist church, because they have these mission stories. They talk about people in New Guinea that are headhunters, and then they become converted. They talk about the Amazon, and they convert people to the Indians of the Amazon. I mean, it's an incredible geographic trip around the world, right? So I became infused with a broader picture of the world surrounding me. I also realized that the baker wasn't just delivering the bread. It was more than just graham bread. It was a bread of life. And so my concepts began to grow very, very quickly. And one of my friends, my new friends in the Adventist church there, they migrated over the next year to Canada, and they would write these beautiful letters. Canada is a huge country. It's the colossal it's the country of future. It's economics. Everything is in Canada. Come to Canada. Well, I'm 15, 16 years of age. I'm just entering into a special training program as a young executive with a large company there. And so that was out of the question. But he kept on writing and writing and writing. And so finally, as I graduated from my young junior executive position, a 3-year program with the Krups Corporation in Germany, they offered me a job to become involved in the export department. And this company was very well known. You've heard of the Brown Company, B-R-A-U-N? Brown? Yeah. And, this was a competitor of Braun. And they make coffee grinders and coffee everything and electrical appliances. They bring joy to the home of people, especially to mothers and fathers that do the cooking. Joy. And I graduated from the program, and I was on trust to take care of several countries that was under my jurisdiction, and one of the countries was Canada. And the letters would still come from these friends, and so I finally wrote to the agency that represented our company in Montreal, in Canada, and I said, do you have an opening for me, I've been writing to you for the last couple of years. I'd be willing to come and join you there and help you. He said, we want you to come. We want you to help us to sell coffee grinders in Canada. You need to change the habits of the Canadians. They still drink these ground-up Folger coffee seeds there. No, we have to show them how to really make freshly ground coffee with our coffee grinders. I mean, that's the kind of coffee you want to have. Or not the... Did I come to Canada? My job, to sell coffee grinders to change the habits of Canadians. And then I go to the Adventist church in Montreal. I said, what are you doing? I'm selling coffee grinders. You should have these coffee grinders. I mean, you don't even know what good coffee tastes like. You've got to ground it right there. And I said, you're an Adventist? I didn't know. We were first-class Adventists in my family because we would get all of our meat from the Jewish butcher. They was considered first-class Adventists. We didn't understand. We were left behind from the world field a little bit. With the war and everything else, you can see how that happened. And so they said, oh. So then God took me to Canada. He opened the second door. And then God appeared to my heart. And he said, coffee grinders? You'll be known as changing the coffee drinking habits of Canadians. How about selling the milk of human kindness? What does that mean? And then I discovered something very unusual, and that is, I discovered a concept called where you are actually moving upward, social upward mobility. You see, when you grew up in Germany after the war, if your father was a plumber, you become a plumber. If your father was a professor, chances are you become sort of academician. If your father was a bookkeeper, you become a bookkeeper. You stay on the same level. You come to Canada, you come to America, and you begin to understand you can become anything you want to become, anything. If you're willing to pay the price, anything is possible, just about. True or false? I said, I don't want to be selling coffee grinders for the rest of my life. I want to sell the milk of human kindness. I can become anything I want to become. How do you do this? You go to school. You get education. I have no money. I'm by myself. My brother and sisters are back home. We're a poor family. Humble beginnings. What do you do? So I left the Quips branch office there, selling coffee grinders. I left it behind. I took a train and a bus. I traveled several thousand miles, and I ended up in the Canadian bush, in working in a mine, because that's where I could earn plenty of money, and there was no place where you could spend the money because it's just bush. There's no town, just no rundown mines, a large, very modern mine, nickel mine. And they bring people in there, and they work hard, and they send their money to their families, and that's what they do. There's no cinema, there's no entertainment, or they got some beer there in town, if there's no town, but that's all there is. And I got 2 jobs. Because I knew that I could do it, and I wanted to do it, and I decided I want to sell the milk of human kindness. And what does that mean? I want to become a doctor. I want to be serving people. And in those days, that's what people always thought about. When you're an Adventist and you want to serve, you always think about becoming a nurse, a doctor, maybe a dentist, in those days, and a school teacher. These were sort of four options. Of course, it has all changed now. So I would aim as high as I could. I would become a doctor of physician. And it didn't matter what the price that I had to pay was. I would do it because you have a great opportunity in this country. You can become anything you want to become. So I worked in the mine. I had 2 jobs there. One job was I cleaned out all the barracks of the miners. And young man that I was, 19 years of age, I wasn't quite yet familiar with some of the pictures that I saw on the wall there. I almost went blind. But then, during the daytime, I was working in the warehouse. Warehouse. That's where everything is being stored. And it wasn't very long before those miners, of course, knew that I was going to be a medical student someday. I was going to go back to school. I would become a doctor. And with that, I became the butt of many jokes. We're going to show this kid. I mean, my English wasn't that good then, remember? And I purposely decided I would go to the mines because I would learn, conversational English. Because it didn't work out so well. First of all, a lot of these miners were French-speaking, and then the others, they didn't speak English, they spoke a different language, right? I tell you, I would have my dictionary, my German dictionary, English German dictionary. I looked up all these words. I couldn't even find these words that they were using. So after a while, I thought maybe I shouldn't use those words because it's not in the dictionary. So I would go to my phone and say, "Sir, what does that mean?" He said, "Don't ask me." So I knew there was something fishy. And so I became the butt of many jokes. These miners would bring their requisition forms, and they would write down, "We need 5 gallons of blue steam." And I would look all over the shelves. I mean, I knew what steam was, but who knows? In Canada and America, anything is possible. So blue steam, couldn't find it. So then they would order left-handed screwdrivers. And I would look all over the shelf, left-handed screwdrivers. I mean, I looked very, very conscientiously. I looked over again and again and again. And they said, "We need those left-handed screwdrivers. What are you doing?" And then they ordered 1 drum, 90-gallon of soap stretcher. Soap stretcher. I looked up in my dictionary, it wasn't there. So I didn't suspect anything, and then they said it's a very, very essential item, and you've got to find this. So I looked for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. I looked at every large drum, and then my foreman said, "Well, we have a small warehouse out there," and mind you, this was now in the winter time, and I didn't know it at the time. It was the coldest spot in Canada, minus 72 degrees with the wind chill factor. I mean, if you would meet someone outside and you would talk to this person, the words would never reach that person's ear because they would be frozen in midair. It was that cold. I mean, you have a bundle like this, and you just had some openings. And so I'm going out to that little warehouse there. I mean, it's cold, it's freezing. I'm going out there to this little warehouse where they have some more of these big drums. And I meet this guy, he's Polish. He doesn't speak very good English. I don't speak very good English. He had these 2 foreigners trying to figure out soap stretcher. So every drum we turned around, these are heavy drums, and we saw the naphtha gas, we saw the diesel fuel, all these kind of liquids were there, but nothing ever said soap stretcher. And these drums had not been turned around for a while, so we cleaned them all up. I mean, they look never so clean as German foreigners. I come back, tell the foreman, "No soap stretcher." He said, "You didn't look right." I said, "I did." He said, "Let's make an appointment tomorrow with the man in charge of the inventory, the purchasing agent." So the next morning we went there. He had one of these Rolodexes. I should have been brighter. I didn't. I should have noticed that it was freshly printed things on a Rolex card. And it said soap stretcher. And it said 1 drum left. And my foreman said, "You see, There's one drum still on the inventory on the books here. You've got to find it. I spent another day, looked all over the warehouse. The next day I was calling to the general manager of the mine, Dr. McEwen. And I knew that was the end of my career of becoming a doctor. I knew I would be fired because I couldn't find those 90-gallon drum of soap stretcher. So I come to his office, big thick carpet. The secretary, the assistant, says, "Oh, Dr. McEwen has been waiting for you, sir." I know. It's over. The sword is coming down. My dream is finished. And he sits me down and he said, "I understand you've been spending 5 days looking for a soap stretcher, sir." "Yes, sir." "You've done it on company's time?" "Yes." "You're a very expensive employee. And I heard you haven't found anything yet?" I said, "Sir, I tried everything I could. I'm very sorry." He had a big grin on his face, and he said to me, "A soap stretcher is something like a skyhook." A skyhook? I mean, there are all kinds of things possible in America and Canada. Skyhook. He brightened up and he said, "Don't you get it? These miners are pulling your leg." I said, "Pulling my leg?" You see, when you learn business English, they don't teach you pulling your leg. Oh my. So he said, "You know, these miners, they work very, very hard, just like you are, and you have this dream, don't you, you want to go back to the university and become a doctor?" "Yeah." He said, "These miners work very hard. They send all their money home. And, they have very little fun here. They just work and work and work. But you have given them such a good time here. I'm happy to tell you that we're promoting you." So that's how it turned out. Amazing, isn't it? And then he said to me, "When you go back," and he said, "I'm sure these manners are all waiting for you now because they're going to be laughing at you. But just remember one thing. They're not laughing at you. They're laughing with you." That made all the difference. I walked back, I felt this small, right? But now I understood. I'm the entertainer. They're laughing with me. I'm okay. And they're waiting for me, and they're all like, "Ha, ha, 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 ha." And I had the last laugh because I got the promotion. So God was very much interested in me. The doors opened. First, the changing religion, then the changing country, now the changing career, and a life discovery, changing discovery. And that was the concept of upward mobility, that you can become anything you want to become if you're willing to pay the price. And then, so I saved my money, and I went to an Adventist college, and from there I went to Andrews University, and there I found the love of my life, my wife Lily, a concertizing pianist, a wonderful lady, humble, just... So I've been a very, very blessed man. And then we decided we'd go to Loma Linda, and I was waiting to get into the medical school, and the dean of the School of Public Health of the university talked to me one time, and he said, "I'm giving a special lecture in Los Angeles. There's some 1,000 people there, and I have 12, 13, 14 lectures that I give. People are interested in health." And he said, "I understand that you've been involved in marketing. You were trained in Germany. You were supposed to change the coffee drinking habits of Canadians." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Would you be interested in coming with me and see what I do?" Because as a physician, he was a physician as he's himself too, but as a physician, basically you only deal one-on-one. But I want you to see that physicians And people with a public health orientation can reach thousands of people. And maybe there's something in it for you. So I went there, and that night was the 4th lecture in the series that he had. And he started like this, welcoming the people, and he said, you know, as a young medical student at Loma Linda, I always did my morning walks. I enjoyed the singing of the birds. Now this is 1970. We had lots of air pollution in Loma Linda in those days. It's all cleared up now. But then it was, you couldn't see from here to there sometimes. And he said to the people, as a medical student, I love to listen to the birds sing. This morning, he said, ladies and gentlemen, I took my morning walk, and I heard the birds coughing. I want to talk to you today about air pollution. I was so intrigued by how he captured the audience that, wow. And you could tell people loved to learn about health. A series of 12 or 13, 14 lectures that he had. How to become more involved in shaping your own future. He talked to these people. He said, you determine to allow to understand how long you're going to live. You determine to allow to understand what disease you will have. This is not that there's some kind of a God that pulls the plug. Well, that can happen sometimes too. We don't always understand this. But he said, by and large, 70-80% of what happens to you is determined by the decisions that you make and what the culture dictates for you to do. Wow. On the way home, he said to me, Hans, have you ever thought of maybe taking a look at our brand new doctorate program in health science? It combines the best of medicine with the best of nutrition and lifestyle issues, because he said in the future, people recognize that it's the lifestyle that determines the health and the disease of people. And he said, you would be sort of at the front end of things. He said, you can be a physician, of course, you can be a surgeon, you can do wonderful things, you can go to Africa and do make the blind see with surgeons, so you can do all these wonderful things, but would you be open with your background in what you have been doing in Germany, would that be of interest to you? So I talked to Lily, and we said, okay. And 4 years later, I became a doctor in health science with a master's degree in public health nutrition. I loved it. The people apparently thought that maybe I am a good candidate, and they offered me a job at the university there, and I taught people there, and I was now promoting health. Rather than treating treating disease, I was preventing disease, I was promoting health. I was working there for a year, and then I received a phone call from a man by the name of Nathan Pritikin. Nathan Pritikin was a very controversial man at the time. He made all kinds of claims that you can reverse heart disease, you can reverse high blood pressure, you can reverse diabetes, you can eat all you want and you lose weight, and everybody knew that he was a quack. Everybody knew that he was a charlatan, but he wrote the books, and he was on television, he was on 60 Minutes, and people began to understand that this man was onto something. And I thought to myself, did he read Ellen G. Wright? She talks about these ideas. She talks about the ideas that God designed our diet, and he put into the diet all the things that we need. It's not the vitamins that you buy, it's what you have in the food. And so I went to see him. I was very cagey. But then he said, why don't you talk to some of our patients here? There are 50-some patients there. They came from different parts of the world. They came there for 4 weeks. And what they did, they would eat foods as grown, simply prepared, without all the salt and all the sugar and all the pepper and all these things, very simple foods. And he gave them 1 ounce of chicken a week so that nobody could accuse him that he was a vegan. Because in those days, the shades come down, you were sort of a leftover hippie. Today, the intelligent people are moving in that direction. That's the in thing now. That's the responsible choice. That's what intelligent people do. So I talked to some of these people. They've been there 2 and 3 weeks. I mean, the insulin is gone. They had to reduce the insulin 3 units every 2 or 3 days. Some of the people no longer, after 3 or 4 weeks, had insulin. They were diabetics. They were no longer diabetics. The blood sugars were normal. No more medication. That cannot be. People with angina pain, with chest pain, they would take 30, 40, 50 nitroglycerins a day to make it through the day. They come there, and after 3, 4 weeks, either they are dramatically lowered in their medication amount, or they're totally off these medications, and the angina pain is basically gone. This cannot be. It takes years to reverse this disease. How could this happen? There's something fishy going on here. I mean, people came there with osteoporosis. They had fractured already some of their toes, and they come to the program, and after 4 weeks, they walk every day 2, 3, 4, 5 miles every day. They have broken legs, broken bones, broken toes, osteoporosis. How can they do this? And they get stronger as they walk every day. I mean, the lame are walking, the blind are seeing, and no. And then 60 Minutes comes. And 60 Minutes does a special report. And before they come, I had signed on with Nathan Pritikin to be the research director and educational director, because I'd gone through his medical records and I have noticed that he was actually helping 83% of the people with high blood pressure with medication, no longer have medication within 4 weeks off medication, and blood pressure normalized. I mean, you cannot argue with him anymore. I'm trained as a researcher. This was real. I didn't understand how it works, but it was there. And so he came to me, and Nathan Pritikin said to me, do you really think we should let 60 Minutes come in here and do an expose? Journalism. It could backfire on us. Maybe they pick a wrong patient and the patient doesn't do very well, because not everyone does always perform exactly. So I said, well, I've gone through the records for blood pressure and for diabetes. It looks very, very good, as you know. He said, I think we're probably on safe ground. He said, I feel the same way. So they invited Molly Schaefer to come in and do 60 Minutes. And the result was that it almost burned up the switchboard at the Pritikin Center there, because people from all over the world called and said, we have been to the best doctors, we have been to the best surgeons, we have been to the best internal medicine people, we have taken all the medications, we take more and more medication every year, and yet we come to you and all of a sudden the medications have to be reduced, and we're beginning to feel like we're new people again. We've never felt so good before, and the arteries are pumping again, and the heart is pumping again, and the diabetes is... And it started the revolution, the wellness revolution in America. He wrote many, many books. They're all best-selling books. He was an engineer. But as an engineer, he looked at disease differently than maybe my medical colleagues. He looked for the cause. Now, why do these people have heart disease? Why do these people have diabetes? Why do these people have high blood pressure? Why? And if you find the cause and you turn it off, should it not then resolve itself? Yes, that's what an engineer does, cause and effect. So he looked at it differently, and he came up with some very interesting answers. And so now I joined up there, and I now began to help people to reverse disease. Do you see, first I wanted to treat disease as a doctor, then I began to become involved in public health, to promote health, and now I'm beginning to see, if you use public health measures and you apply them rigorously in your life, you can actually reverse these diseases. And so I joined Nathan Pritikin at the residential center, and then after about a few years, I began to have second thoughts, because coming from a humble background, I recognized that most of the people that would come to that center for 4 weeks, they were well-heeled people. They have to have the money to spend their 4 weeks. These were executives. These were people that come from Hong Kong. They would come from Vancouver, from New York, from all over the world. They'd exhausted all the medical possibilities. But I come from a humble beginning. I need to bring this concept to everybody. And then I also wonder, so when these people leave after 4 weeks, what happens then? They go back to the same fridge, the same friends, the same potlucks. Right? Same doctors who don't really understand these things. And I began to realize that maybe I need to do something differently. I need to take the concept to the people where the people are. I need to go to the communities. And the phone rings, and God opens up now another door. And that door is that one of my friends called me from Canada, and he said, would you please come up here and give the annual preventive medicine lecture for the community? I said, what's the purpose of the lecture? I want us to become a healthier town. We're 4,000 people here. Small town. Can you come and do it? I said, no, I'm not interested in that. He said, why? Aren't you interested in health? I said, yes. But one lecture doesn't do anything. It just antagonizes the people. If you want to change people's lifestyle, if you want to change people's health, you have to change their lifestyle. He said, how do you change people's lifestyle? Well, I said, you have to expose them to new habits for at least 21 days. He said, well, what do you mean? Well, I said, if you're right-handed and you brush your teeth with your right hand, I want you to tonight start with the left hand, and you do it for 21 days, 3 times a day, and guess what? After 21 days, you can do it with either our hand. You believe me? Give it a try tonight. Check it out. And he said, so 21 days to change habits, that gives them better health? Well, yeah, if you give them the right habits. I said, yeah. So you're not coming? I said, look, I have a wife, I have 2 kids. I don't have any lectures really prepared. I can't really do it, and I don't believe in it. He said, but you live in 21 days. Habit change? Yes. So when are you coming for 21 days? And that was my first CHIP program that started the next year. And we had 400 people out of a town of 4,000 in our CHIP program for 16 nighs. 4 nights a week for 4 weeks. And it was a depth of winter, and the people loved to come. And the results that we had when we checked out the blood cholesterol and everything else before and after, they were pretty much close to what we had in the live-in program, where people paid thousands of dollars. You can go to the Predican program now in Florida. It's $21,000 for 4 weeks. And people say that's cheap because the bypass costs $150,000. And you take all these medications, it isn't going to help you. Yeah. So the program then leapfrogged, is it the right word, leapfrogged, from British Columbia all the way to Ottawa, to the capital of Canada. And it was entered into the parliamentary record that this was perhaps the answer to the Canadian health crisis, to educate, inspire, and motivate people with these chronic diseases. Oh yeah, we can do wonderful things with surgery when you have an acute issue, when you have a broken leg. Doctors are the finest people here in our world here, right? But when it comes to these chronic diseases, we're basically impotent. So when you have a bypass, that doesn't solve the problem. It buys you some time, maybe. When you take your insulin shots, that doesn't really help you with your diabetes. That gets worse and worse and worse because the insulin always promotes appetite enhancement. So you eat more, and that makes the diabetes worse. So you take more insulin, and people go from 10 units to 20 units to 100 units to 150 to 200 units. You haven't solved the problem. You've got to have an engineering approach to this thing. So it became really a wonderful experience for me to see. And then my wife said to me one time, she said, honey, you're saving the world and you're losing your family. You're traipsing all over the country And when you're gone for one of these campaigns, it's usually 2.5 months. You call us every day. We appreciate that. She's a very understanding woman, and she is very, very passionate about what I do and what we do together. And I said, but you have to really think about that. So then the call comes. A man calls me from Loma Linda. He said, I'm in Loma Linda right now. My name is Ramesh Pai. I'm from India. I have been asked to see you. Can we make an appointment? We make an appointment. He comes to the house. In the meantime, the Quiet Hour, which is an organization that does missionary work in many different countries, they had asked me if I would be willing to go to India, to Bangalore, and to help them to reaching out into the more affluent society so that there would be enough tithe money coming in to actually be able to support the ministers to take care of the newly baptized people. So I said, yeah, but I don't know anything about India. I don't know anything about their diet. And I said, well, as long as you're willing, I'm sure the answer will come. So here's this man. He's coming from India. He sits down and he says, my name is Ramesh Pai. I've traveled around the world with my medical team. I have heart disease. I had bypass surgery in America. But the bypass is closed up again. I don't know what to do. We traveled all over the world to see what we could do to find some answers for my situation. And we ended up in a program called the Nathan Pritikin Program. We just came from Santa Monica, from Santa Barbara then, and he said, we asked Mr. Pritikin to come to Bangalore in India to teach this concept. And he said, no, he has his own center that he has to take care of, but there's a Dr. Diehl that used to work with me some time ago, and maybe he's available. And I said, what city are you in, sir? Bangalore. Well, that's the very city that the crowd all wanted me to go to. I said, well, I'm actually scheduled with an organization called the Quaidar to go there someday and to reach out into the more affluent society. He said, well, that's why I'm here. I said, what are your needs? Well, he said, many of my friends are dying from heart disease. They're business people. They do business with Westerners, and they eat like Westerners. And they die like Westerners. Can you come and help us? And I said, well, how many people do you think you could get? Oh, he said, how many do you want? I said, well, would 1,000 people be okay, or 1,500 people? He said, yeah. I said, how would you do this? Can I go to the Rotary clubs? Do they have Rotary clubs in Bangalore? He said, yeah, we have 52 Rotary clubs there. These are people that are on upscale mobility track, right? Business people. Oh. I said, do you know how I can get into these Rotary clubs? He said, yeah, I can help you. He said, how would you do it? He said, I'm the governor of Rotary for all of India. I personally go and take you there 3 times a day. When I call the meeting, the people will come. Before you can call, the Lord has already answered. I said, okay, so we go to the Rotary clubs, we enroll these people, but I need to also have laboratory facilities, because I do blood tests before the program and after the program, so people see for themselves how quickly the body responds and becomes healthy. He said, how do I find a laboratory? Do they have automated laboratories? He said, no problem. I said, really? How? Well, he said, you may not know. We own the largest, the most modern hospital in Bangalore, and we just installed a brand new Kodak automated analyzer. We'd be very happy to work with you. I said, sir, I need to also have some physicians, some nurses to do blood pressure and so on. If we have 1,000 or 2,000 people, he said, no problem. I can send these people to you. I said, where would you get these physicians from? He said, you may not know. We own the largest privately owned medical school in India. And my cousin is the dean, and I will just tell him, we need, how many physicians do you need? How many nurses do you need? They'll all come here to Bangalore, and they'll take care of things. I said, sir, I need to have also a cookbook with Indian recipes. My cookbooks don't work here in India. He said, no problem. You may not know, but we also have we have a school of dietetics, and I send I give you the top professor. She will write the book for you, adjust it so that it is adjusted to Indian tastes. And I said, but so you have to also print the book. Is there a printer? I mean, is there a publisher? He said, Ben, you may not know. We own the largest newspaper in town. We have these big web presses. We can print this in one day. How many copies do you need? And then he said, how do we handle the finances of all this project? He said, if the Clydall would pay for your travel to India, back and forth, do you mind if we take care of everything else? I said, I have to talk to my lawyer first. No. Lord! I mean, do you see the joy? I mean, do you see I'm doing somersaults? He is reliable. I have it all prepared for you. Don't worry. The future is yours. Just step into the water and do it. We have 1,500 people there. We came back 3 years later, another 1,500 people, all millionaires. These people were so grateful. They would come on Sabbath. They would come to the Adventist church, the English-speaking church there, and they would listen to me there, talk about God. That's kind of door number 7, and I have to dash now a little bit here. So my wife is sort of on my mind when she said to me, you know, you have to also be concerned about we have a family. So I'm in Kalamazoo, Michigan. I have a big appointment there from a medical center. It said, we want you to enroll 1,000 people in a program here in Kalamazoo. We want to be having a healthier town. And I remember my wife, and I said, I have to talk to my wife first. I said, honey, one more time. It'll probably take a whole year. I'll be coming home in between. We have some honeymoons, many of them. And then I look at the phone book. In those days, we still had phone books, yellow pages. Videographer. I call these people up and I say, can you film my presentations that I'm doing? I have 16 presentations. There's a CHIP program. Can you come in and do a filming so that maybe if it's being filmed, we can use the films to do the work and I can be at home. Are you with me there? So they said, well, how many cameras do you need? I said, I don't know. Well, you don't know. Folks, I didn't have a clue. And they said, well, under those circumstances, you need 3. And then he said, are you the man, this doctor that is speaking at the hospital there, that is doing this work to helping people? I said, yeah. So I shared with him my mission, my vision. And then he said, well, how are you planning to pay for this? I said, I don't know. Then he gave me a price. So the next day I called him back because I thought I was trained to be a business person, a marketing person. I should at least get 3 bids, right? So I called him up and said, you know, why should I really work with you? What is so special that you feel so good that you can work with me and give me a good price? He said, sir, we give you half price of what we usually charge Bob Hope. We're the official videographer for Bob Hope. No more questions from me. They filmed everything, and it became the film set that for the next 15 years went around the world and enrolled people in the CHIP program. Door number 8, we finished this project, and now a city close to Chicago called me up and they said, we want you to come here and we will take care of everything that you need. Come and do the CHIP program for the hospital. We want this to become the healthiest town. 170,000 people come and help us. No diet, no financial limits. Whatever you want, it's yours. I said, honey, our CHIP is coming in. After all these years. You know, I mean, you give and you give and you give. It's a ministry. And she said, are you going there? I said, honey, one more time. Because I have to check out if the films work as well as when I do it in person. So I will do it in person, and then I have another, it's a research project, and then we do it with the films, and we see if the results are similar. Do the films produce the same results as a live lecture? We have to do that one more time before I turn these films loose on populations. In closing, we enrolled 3,000 people in 3 years. The results were spectacular. The hospital came to me and said, we have a governmental grant available of $1 million. Could we apply this to your research project here? It didn't take me very long to say yes. I was overwhelmed by God's goodness. More than 30 scientific papers have been published from these research dollars that the government made available to us from the state of Illinois. Before you can call, he's there. I have it all planned out for you. I'm turning 65. My wife says, you know, when you're working for yourself, you always have to squirrel some money away for a rainy day, right? It's called a pension fund. My wife said to me, what's our pension fund look like? That was a rhetorical question because she knew there was nothing there. Because everything we did, we put into it for the books and for the videos and so on, and helping people. And we enjoyed it immensely. And we were not really hungry. We were doing fine. My wife did a very, very fine job as a piano teacher and so on. No problems there. 65 years of age. No money in the bank. But honey, we got the house, it's all paid for. It will be okay. If something happens to me, you'll be okay. The Lord is good. Let's not worry about it. We have never worried. Let's not worry now. Yes, okay. The phone rings. Call from Australia. Australia. We are the largest Adventist business in the world. We're called Sanitarium Food Company. We used to be cousins with the Kellogg's 100 years ago, when a common originator started both companies, a lady by the name of E.G.W. Kellogg kind of took the route of high sugar. We pretty much stayed on the healthy orientation. We have seen your program. There are 52 churches in New Zealand that run the CHIP program with wonderful results. Can we get a license from you to use it in Australia and in New Zealand? And I said, well, you know, these videos are now 15 years old. We have to have new videos. Oh, we're prepared for this. We're going to put $3-4 million into making new videos, and we will have new books. Everything will be brand new, updated, and so on. We're committed because I said, well, if you want to do this for Australia and New Zealand, why don't you take everything that I have? Take my name, my Lifestyle Medicine Institute, everything that I have. It's all yours, and you can acquire it. Would I be willing to give up my baby of 25 years? My CHIP baby? It was my life. And then they said, we'll take care of your baby. We'll give it new clothing. We'll help it to become an adult. It's time for it to grow up a little bit more. We put our resource behind it. We put our staff, we have 2,000 employees. We'll put some of our staff on this special project. Maybe we're changing the directors of the program, but the symphony sound would be better than ever. Because this is a new age of new graphics and everything else. In closing, my wife never asked me about the pension fund again. God took care of all of this. And on top of that, they said, why don't you work with us for the next 5 years? And when the 5 years were up, they said, well, you can work with us as long as you want. I'm 72 now. I'm happy to be with you here today. I'm happy to be in good health. Thank God. I'm happy to let you know that God is trustworthy. And God wants us in this great controversy that is coming to an end, more the more I see it. He wants us to be healthy, because only a healthy mind can really understand the great controversy as it unwinds more and more every day. God wants us to have clear understandings. He wants us to be with him. And he wants us to also, he wants us to be an open door to other people so that we can become a channel to others. For I know what I'm doing, he said. I have it all planned out for you, plans to take care of you, plans to give you a future you hope for. And then when the last door will open, it's from here to eternity. I have it all planned out for you. Let us trust him. I feel such a fulfilled professional person. I've seen 9 doors, big doors that God opened, step by step by step. At the time, it didn't really make sense to go and join Nathan Pritikin, sort of a charlatan of a person that I thought he was, and look what happened. My life's changed. I come to Andrews and I find this beautiful lady there who becomes my soulmate. And to have the privilege to love and to be loved, nothing comes even close to it, as you all know. And so I'm here to let you know that when you come back this afternoon at 4 o'clock, we will have 400 of these booklets on the chairs here, one for each one of you. These will be the handouts for the lectures I'm going to give. This afternoon at 4 o'clock, I'll be talking about forks and knives. Could there be weapons of mass destruction? And then tomorrow morning, I will talk about fork and knives as instruments of hope, health, and healing. You can reverse many of the diseases that we have. And then I will talk to you about reversing diabetes, reversing high blood pressure. We'll talk about some of the spiritual things that are so important to me. And I know that God will bless us. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you. God bless you.